Caleb Hartley pressed his dying daughter against his chest and dropped to his knees in the snow. 18-month-old Lily had stopped crying 10 minutes ago. That terrified him more than her screams ever had. His two other children huddled behind him, shaking silent, watching their father break. Christmas Eve, 1883. Bitter Creek, Wyoming. Every door in town had closed in his face. Every prayer had gone unanswered, until he looked up and saw her standing on the porch across the street. A widow, a stranger. His last hope. Subscribe to our channel and follow Caleb's story to the very end. Comment your city below, let us know how far this tale has traveled. Caleb's hands had stopped shaking an hour ago. That was bad. He knew it was bad because he couldn't feel his fingers anymore. Couldn't feel the weight of Lily in his arms. Couldn't feel anything except the cold eating through his bones. "Papa." Josie's voice came from somewhere behind him, small, frightened. Papa Tommy fell down. Fell. Caleb turned. His 6-year-old son lay crumpled in the snow, not moving, just lying there like a broken toy someone had discarded. "Tommy." Caleb's voice cracked. "Tommy, get up." The boy didn't move. Caleb handed Lily to Josie without thinking. The 9-year-old took her baby sister, staggering under the weight. Caleb crossed to Tommy in 3 steps, grabbed the boy's coat, hauled him upright. "I can't feel my feet, Papa." Tommy's lips were blue. His eyes were glassy. "I tried to walk, but they won't work anymore." Caleb pulled off his own gloves, put them on Tommy's hands. The gloves were too big, hung off the boy's fingers like empty sacks, but they were warm, warmer than nothing. "You keep walking," Caleb said. His voice came out harder than he meant. "You hear me? You don't stop. You don't sit down. You keep moving." "I'm tired." "I don't care if you're tired." Caleb grabbed Tommy's shoulders, shook him once. "You walk or you die. Those are the only choices. Now move." Tommy's face crumpled. Tears froze on his cheeks before they could fall. But he walked. 1 step, then another. Josie appeared at Caleb's elbow. Lily clutched against her thin chest. "Where are we going, Papa?" Caleb didn't answer. He didn't have an answer. They'd tried every boarding house in Bitter Creek, every inn, every church, every door that might open for a desperate man with 3 children and empty pockets. Every door had closed. "We'll find something," he said. The lie tasted like ash. 2 hours earlier, Caleb had stood in the office of the Red Horse Inn, hat in hands pried in pieces at his feet. "Please." He'd never begged before. Not once in 32 years. "I can work. I'm a blacksmith. Best in Cheyenne before I—" He stopped. Before what? Before his wife died. Before he crawled into a bottle and stayed there for 6 months. Before he lost everything that mattered. Before you what? The innkeeper's wife had crossed her arms. Sharp-eyed woman, thin-lipped, unmoved. Before you drank away your business, before you ran up debts in 3 territories. Word travels, Mr. Hartley. We know who you are. My children should have a father who can provide for them." She'd nodded toward the door. "There's nothing for you here." Caleb had looked at his children waiting in the corner. Josie holding Lily. Tommy pressed against his sister's side. All 3 watching him with eyes too old for their faces. "It's Christmas Eve," he'd said quietly. "I'm aware." The woman hadn't blinked. "Doors that way." Now they walked through empty streets. The town had buttoned up tight against the cold. Every family tucked behind locked doors, every window glowing with warmth Caleb's children couldn't have. He counted the money in his pocket again. 47 cents. Enough for nothing. "Papa." Josie's voice was fading. Exhaustion pulling her down. "Lily's not moving." Caleb stopped. Took the baby from Josie's arms. Lily's eyes were closed. Her skin was gray. "Lily." He patted her cheek. Nothing. "Lily, wake up." The baby didn't stir. Something cracked inside Caleb's chest. Not his heart that had broken when Sarah died, when he'd stood in the doorway of their bedroom and watched her bleed out with their newborn daughter in her arms. This was something else, something deeper. The last wall between him and complete destruction. Please. He wasn't talking to his children anymore. Wasn't talking to anyone he could see. Please. I'll do anything. Take everything I have left. Just don't take them. Don't take my children. Silence answered him, wind and snow, and the distant sound of Christmas bells mocking him. Tommy tugged at his coat. Papa, is Lily dead? No. The word came out fierce. No, she's not dead. She's just cold. We need to get her warm. How? Caleb looked around. Empty street, closed doors, darkness pressing in from all sides, and then he saw her. A woman stood on the porch of a 3-story building across the street. She held a broom frozen mid-sweep staring at them. Caleb stared back, couldn't move, couldn't think. Just stood there in the snow with his dying baby and his frozen children and watched this stranger watch him. She was tall, dark hair pinned up under a practical bonnet, apron over a wool dress. Nothing fancy, nothing soft. But she wasn't looking away. Everyone else had looked away. Crossed the street to avoid him. Pretended not to see the broken man and his broken children. This woman saw them, and didn't look away. She set down the broom, walked down the porch steps, crossed the street toward them, her boots crunching through the snow. Caleb's throat closed. He wanted to run, wanted to hide, wanted to be anywhere except standing here exposed, destroyed, witnessed. The woman stopped in front of him. Her eyes moved from Lily's gray face to Josie's shaking body to Tommy's blue lips. Then back to Caleb. How long have you been out here? Her voice was low, calm, the kind of calm that came from practice. 3 hours. Caleb's voice cracked. Maybe 4. The boarding houses, full. The church, shelters full. Pastor gave me $2. Caleb laughed, and it sounded like breaking glass. Spent it on the last room we had, before the innkeeper kicked us out. The woman's jaw tightened. Margaret Brennan at the Red Horse. She said word travels. It does. The woman's eyes stayed on his face, searching for something. What's your name? Caleb Hartley. The blacksmith from Cheyenne, the one who... Yeah. Caleb cut her off. He knew what people said. Drunk, failure. Man who let his wife die and then fell apart. That's me. He waited for her to walk away. They always walked away. She didn't. I'm Clara Whitmore. She nodded toward the building behind her. I run the boarding house. I have rooms. Hope was dangerous. Caleb had learned that. Hope was a knife that cut you when you weren't looking. I don't have money, he said. 47 cents. That's everything. I didn't ask about money. I don't take charity. Clara's eyebrow rose, just slightly. Your baby's dying in your arms, Mr. Hartley. You might want to reconsider your position on charity. The words hit like a punch. Caleb looked down at Lily, still gray, still not moving. She's not dying, he said, but his voice shook. She will be if you don't get her warm in the next 20 minutes. Clara's voice stayed calm, practical. I have a fire, hot food, warm beds. You can pay me back in work when the weather breaks. Fair trade. Caleb's voice broke. He tried again. Why? Why what? Why help us? You don't know me. You've heard the stories. You know what I am. Clara looked at him for a long moment. Something shifted in her eyes. Something painful and private. I know what it's like, she said quietly, to lose everything. And I know what it's like when no one helps. She turned toward the boarding house. You coming or not? The boarding house swallowed them in warmth. Caleb stood in the entrance hall, blinking, overwhelmed. Heat pressed against his frozen skin. Light blazed from oil lamps. The smell of bread and something savory drifted from somewhere deeper in the house. Tommy made a sound. Half sob, half laugh. "Papa, Papa, it's warm." "I know." Caleb's voice came out strangled. "I know, son." Josie stood beside him, still holding herself rigid, still waiting for this to be taken away. 9 years old, and she'd already learned not to trust good things. Clara moved through the entrance hall with efficient grace. "Parlor's through here. Fire's going. Sit down. I'll get blankets." She disappeared through a doorway. Caleb guided his children into the parlor. The fire roared in a massive stone fireplace. Caleb stopped in front of it, Lily still in his arms. The heat hit him like a wall. His frozen skin screamed, burned, came back to life in agonizing waves. Lily stirred. Caleb's heart stopped. Started again. "Lily!" He shifted her in his arms, turned her toward the fire. "Lily, can you hear me?" The baby's eyes fluttered open. Gray-blue eyes. Sarah's eyes looking up at him with confusion. "Papa!" Her voice was tiny, rough, alive. Caleb's legs gave out. He dropped to his knees in front of the fire, clutching his daughter, and something he'd been holding back for 2 years finally broke free. He pressed his face against Lily's hair and wept. Tommy and Josie were there immediately, small bodies pressing against him, small arms wrapping around him. They didn't speak, didn't need to. They just held on. That's how Clara found them when she came back with blankets. She stopped in the doorway, watched them for a moment. Something crossed her face, something raw and unguarded, before she blinked, and it was gone. "Here." She crossed to them, knelt beside Caleb, wrapped a blanket around Lily first, then Tommy, then Josie. "Get them out of those wet clothes. There's dry things in the chest by the stairs. Might be too big, but they'll do." Caleb looked at her, tears still wet on his face. Pride long gone. "Thank you." The words weren't enough. Would never be enough. I can't." Later. Clara stood. "Dry clothes, warm food, then we talk." She walked out. Caleb watched her go. An hour later, the children sat at a scarred wooden table in Clara's kitchen, wrapped in borrowed clothes, 3 sizes too big, eating stew like they hadn't seen food in weeks. They hadn't. Not proper food, not hot food. Caleb had been feeding them bread and cheese, whatever he could afford, whatever kept them alive without requiring a fire, or a kitchen, or any of the things they'd lost. He sat apart from them, watching, his own bowl of stew untouched. Clara moved around the kitchen, banking the fire, putting away dishes, not hovering, not watching his children with obvious pity, just moving, existing in the same space without making it strange. "The rooms are ready." She dried her hands on a cloth. "Second floor, 2 rooms side by side, washroom at the end of the hall." "I can't." "We've been through this, Mr. Hartley." Clara's voice held a note of impatience. "You'll work off the debt when weather breaks. I need repairs. Broken stairs, loose shutters. The furnace is temperamental. You're a blacksmith. Close enough to a handyman. We have a deal." "Do we?" Clara turned to face him. "Do you have somewhere else to go?" The question hung between them. Caleb thought about his 47 cents. His children. The cold waiting outside. "No," he admitted. "I don't." "Then, yes. We have a deal." She hung up the cloth. "Stairs creak on the 3rd and 7th step. Shutters on the east side need reinforcement. I'll make a list." She walked toward the door, then stopped, turned back. "Mr. Hartley." "Yeah." "The room at the end of the hall. Door with the wreath. That one stays closed." Something flickered across her face. Pain old and deep. "Don't ask about it. Don't touch it. Understood." Caleb nodded slowly. He knew closed doors. He had his own Sarah's wedding ring still in his pocket, her hairbrush still in his bag, things he couldn't let go of, couldn't bear to look at. "Understood," he said. Clara left. Later. After the children were asleep, really asleep, warm and safe in actual beds, for the first time in months, Caleb stood in the hallway and looked at the closed door. A wreath hung on it. Dried flowers, faded ribbon. Old. The kind of thing someone put up and never took down. He didn't touch it. Didn't try the handle. Just stood there thinking about the woman who'd saved his children, wondering what she'd lost behind that door. "Can't sleep." Caleb turned. An elderly man stood at the top of the stairs. Chinese, small and weathered, with kind eyes and a knowing smile. "No, sir." Caleb straightened. "Just looking." "Ah." The old man nodded toward the closed door. "You're wondering about that room." Mrs. Whitmore said not to ask. She did. The man came closer, moving quiet as a shadow. "I'm Ezra Chen. Been living here 3 years. Saw her put up that wreath." "After what?" Ezra's face softened. "After she buried her boys, Thomas and Matthew. Fire took them. Took her husband, too." Caleb's chest tightened. "All of them. All of them. 3 years ago this January. She ain't been the same since. House has been empty mostly. Just me and Mrs. Davidson who travels. Clara keeps it running, but..." He shrugged. "Place has been waiting for something. Maybe someone." Caleb looked at the door again. At the faded wreath. At the grief preserved behind closed wood. "She saved my children," he said quietly. "I saw." Ezra studied him. "Question is, what are you going to do about it?" "I don't understand." "She saved your children tonight, Mr. Hartley. Maybe you can save her too, if you're strong enough." Ezra turned and shuffled back toward his room. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow the work begins." He disappeared into his room. Caleb stood in the dark hallway a moment longer. Then he went to check on his children. Josie slept curled around Lily, protective even in sleep. Tommy sprawled across his bed, mouth open, finally peaceful. They were warm, safe, alive. Because a stranger had opened her door. Caleb sat in the chair by the window and watched his children breathe. The sound was the most beautiful thing he'd heard in 18 months. Outside, snow fell harder. The wind howled around the boarding house. But inside these walls his family was protected. He thought about Clara Whitmore, about closed doors and old grief, about Ezra's words. Maybe you can save her too. He didn't know if he was strong enough, didn't know if he had anything left to give. He'd failed Sarah, failed his business, failed his children for 18 months of wandering and poverty. But Clara had given them a chance. Maybe it was time to stop failing. Caleb leaned back in the chair and watched the snow fall. Tomorrow he would start repaying his debt. Tomorrow he would begin again. For tonight, his children were warm. For tonight, that was enough. Dawn came gray and cold. Caleb woke in the chair stiff but rested. His children still slept. He eased out of the room without waking them. The boarding house was quiet. Early light filtered through frost-covered windows. Caleb found the stairs Clara had mentioned, tested each step, identified the creaks. 3rd step, 7th step, both loose. He could fix that. He found his tools where Clara had left them the night before, his blacksmith equipment salvaged from another life, the only thing he'd refused to sell. He'd carried those tools across 3 territories, clinging to them like they could save him. Maybe they finally would. "You're up early." Caleb turned. Clara stood in the kitchen doorway, coffee cup in hand. She looked tired, like she hadn't slept much either. "Thought I'd start on those stairs," Caleb said. "Before the children wake." Clara studied him. "Coffee's hot. Help yourself." She disappeared into the kitchen. Caleb followed. The kitchen was warm fire, already built up in the stove. Clara moved around the space with the ease of long practice, pulling out flour and eggs in a mixing bowl. "There's work clothes in the mudroom," she said without looking at him. Might fit. Belong to... She stopped. Swallowed. They've been sitting there. Might as well get used. Belonged to her husband. Caleb understood. Thank you, he said, for everything. Clara's hands stilled on the bowl. For a moment she stood frozen. Then she resumed, mixing her movements sharp and precise. Thank me by fixing my stairs, Mr. Hartley, and try not to wake the whole house. She wasn't being cold, Caleb realized. She was protecting herself. Building walls with words and distance because the alternative was too dangerous. He understood that too. Yes, ma'am, he said. He took his coffee and went to find the work clothes. Behind him, he heard Clara start humming soft, sad, Barely There. The boarding house was waking up, and for the first time in 18 months, Caleb felt like he might be waking up too. The stairs fought him. Caleb pulled up the third step, examined the split running through the wood, and understood why Clara had put this first on her list. Another month, and someone would have fallen straight through. What are you doing? He looked up. Josie stood at the top of the landing, Lily on her hip. His oldest daughter had that look again, the one that said she was waiting for bad news. Fixing the stairs, Caleb said. Mrs. Whitmore needs them repaired. Why? Because that's how we're paying for our rooms. I work, we stay. Fair trade. Josie considered this. So we're not leaving. Not today. Tomorrow. Caleb set down his hammer. Come here. Josie descended carefully, avoiding the steps he'd already pulled up. She stopped 2 stairs above him, still holding Lily, still guarded. I don't know how long we're staying, Caleb said honestly. But right now, we have a roof. We have food. That's more than we had yesterday. Tommy asked if we're going to die. The words hit Caleb like a fist. What did you tell him? I told him no. Was I lying? Caleb reached up, touched his daughter's face. 9 years old, and already carrying too much. You weren't lying. I'm not going to let anything happen to you. Any of you. You said that in Cheyenne too. She wasn't being cruel, just honest. Caleb had made promises before, broken them, given her reasons not to trust him. I know, he said. I know I let you down, but I'm trying, Josie. That's all I can do. Lily reached for him, babbling. Caleb took her from Josie's arms, settled her against his chest. The baby grabbed his shirt, content. Mrs. Whitmore seems nice, Josie said carefully. She saved our lives. I know. That's why I don't trust her. Caleb stared at his daughter. What? People don't do nice things without wanting something. You taught me that. Had he, Caleb thought back over the past 18 months. The lessons his children had learned from watching him fail. From watching doors close. From learning that the world took and never gave back. Maybe I was wrong, he said quietly. Were you? I don't know yet, but she gave us a chance. That's worth something. Josie looked toward the kitchen where sounds of cooking drifted out. She lost people too, Mr. Chen told Tommy. Her husband and her boys. I know. Tommy said that makes her like us, broken. Caleb swallowed hard. What do you think? I think broken people are dangerous. Josie's eyes met his. Because they don't have anything left to lose. She turned and walked back upstairs. Caleb watched her go, holding Lily, wondering when his 9-year-old daughter had become so wise and so wounded. The kitchen door opened. Clara appeared, wiping her hands on her apron. Breakfast is ready, she said. Your boy's already eaten half the bacon. Caleb almost smiled. Tommy's always hungry. Growing boys are. Clara's voice caught on something. She cleared her throat. Bring the baby. I made porridge for her. She disappeared back into the kitchen. Caleb looked down at Lily. What do you think? He asked her. Is she dangerous? Lily grabbed his nose and laughed. That's what I thought too, Caleb said. Breakfast was quiet. Tommy ate like he'd never seen food before. Josie picked at her plate, watching Clara with careful eyes. Lily sat in a makeshift high-chair porridge, smeared across her face, happy as Caleb had seen her in months. Clara moved around the kitchen, efficient and silent. She didn't hover, didn't try to make conversation. Just let them exist in her space without demanding anything. "Mr. Chen said you make 17 kinds of cookies," Tommy announced suddenly. Clara stopped. "Did he?" "He said Thomas and Matthew liked the molasses ones best." The name hung in the air. Clara's face went very still. Josie kicked Tommy under the table. "Shut up. What I was just... It's all right." Clara's voice was carefully controlled. "He's right. They did like molasses cookies. Matthew would eat them until he made himself sick." She turned back to the stove. Her shoulders were rigid. Caleb shot Josie a look, not angry, just cautioning. Josie looked at her plate. "I'm sorry about your boys," Tommy said. Still guileless. Still too young to know what not to say. "Papa's sorry about Mama, too. He cries sometimes when he thinks we're asleep." "Tommy." Caleb's voice came out stramper than he meant. "What you do?" Clara turned around. Her eyes found Caleb's. For a moment, something passed between them. Recognition, understanding, the shared language of people who'd lost too much. "Grief doesn't have a schedule," Clara said softly. "It comes when it comes." Caleb couldn't speak, couldn't look away from her. Tommy, oblivious, kept eating. "Can you make molasses cookies today? I've never had them." Clara blinked. The moment broke. "Maybe, if you help me clean up after breakfast." "Deal." Josie rolled her eyes. Lily threw porridge at the wall, and somewhere in the chaos, Caleb saw Clara almost smile. Almost. The morning passed in work. Caleb finished the stairs by noon, moved on to the shutters. The east side of the house took the worst wind. Clara hadn't exaggerated. 3 shutters hung by single hinges. 2 more had cracked straight through. He climbed the ladder, tools in his belt, cold biting through his borrowed coat. From up here he could see most of Bitter Creek. Small town. Wooden buildings hunched against the winter. Smoke rose from chimneys. People moved through the streets, bundled against the cold. Normal life. The kind Caleb used to have. "You're good at that." He looked down. Clara stood at the base of the ladder, arms crossed against the cold. "I've been fixing things my whole life," Caleb said. "Blacksmith's son before I was a blacksmith myself. Your father teach you." "Until he died. Then I taught myself the rest." Clara nodded slowly. "James was like that. My husband. Could fix anything. Built half this house with his own hands." "He was a blacksmith too," Mr. Chen mentioned. "Best in the territory. People came from 3 counties for his work." Clara's voice went distant. "He made me a rose once. Iron rose. Took him 2 weeks. Said he wanted to give me something that would never die." "Do you still have it?" "Burned with the house. With everything." Clara's jaw tightened. "We rebuilt here. Started over. 6 months later they were gone too." Caleb climbed down the ladder. Stood in front of her. "I'm sorry," he said, "for your loss." "Don't." Clara held up a hand. "Don't give me sympathy. I've had enough sympathy to choke on. Just fix my shutters." She walked away. Caleb watched her go. Josie appeared at his elbow. "She's angry." "She's grieving." "Same thing, isn't it?" Caleb looked at his daughter. "When did you get so smart?" "When I had to be." She walked back inside. Caleb stood in the cold for a long moment, thinking about iron roses and things that never die, then climbed back up the ladder and got to work. By afternoon, the shutters were done. Caleb moved inside, started on Clara's list of interior repairs. Loose floorboard in the parlor. Sticking window in the dining room. Cabinet door that wouldn't close right. Small things. Things that added up over time when there was no one to fix them. Tommy followed him around, asking endless questions. What's that tool for? Why does wood split? Can I try the hammer? Caleb let him help where it was safe, showed him how to hold a nail, how to measure twice, how to sand with the grain instead of against it. Papa? Yeah. Are we going to stay here forever? Caleb stopped sanding. Why do you ask? Because I like it here. Tommy's face was earnest. Mrs. Whitmore is nice. And Mr. Chen taught me to play checkers. And Josie smiled this morning. She never smiles anymore. Caleb's throat tightened. I noticed. So can we stay? Please. It's not that simple, Tommy. Why not? Because. Caleb searched for words a 6-year-old could understand. Because we're guests here. Mrs. Whitmore was kind enough to take us in, but this isn't our home. We can't just decide to stay forever. What if she wants us to? She doesn't even know us. But she could. Tommy's logic was simple and devastating. She could know us if we stayed, and then maybe she'd want us, like a family. Caleb set down his sandpaper, pulled Tommy close. I know you want a family, he said roughly. I know you miss. I know things have been hard. I don't miss Mama as much as Josie does. Tommy's voice was small. Is that bad? I remember her face but not her voice anymore. Josie says I should remember everything, but I don't. That's not bad. You were only 4 when she died. Josie says Mama would be disappointed in us, living like this, begging for help. Caleb's chest constricted. When did Josie say that? Last week, when we got kicked out of the place in Laramie. God. His children were carrying so much pain and fear and uncertainty, and he'd been too lost in his own grief to see it. Tommy, listen to me. Caleb pulled back, looked his son in the eyes. Your mama would not be disappointed in you, not ever. She loved you more than anything in this world. More than you? Different. She loved us all different, but she would never ever be disappointed in you for surviving, for needing help. Do you understand? Tommy nodded slowly. What about you? What about me? Would Mama be disappointed in you? The question cut deep. Caleb thought about the past 18 months, the drinking, the failures, the slow slide into destruction while his children watched. Yeah, he said honestly. Probably. But I'm trying to fix that. Trying to be better. For you. For your sisters. For Mrs. Whitmore, too. What? Mr. Chen said you might save her, like she saved us. Is that true? Caleb didn't know what to say. Before he could figure it out, footsteps sounded in the hall. Mr. Hartley? Clara's voice. Tight. Strange. There's someone here to see you. Caleb stood. Clara's face was closed off, unreadable. Behind her stood a man Caleb didn't recognize. Tall, dark hair slicked back. Expensive coat. The kind of man who'd never worked a day in his life, but wanted you to know he had money. Caleb Hartley. The man's smile didn't reach his eyes. I'm Silas Burke. I own the saloon in town, among other things. I know who you are. Caleb had heard the name. Silas Burke ran half of Bitter Creek, the ugly half. Gambling. Whiskey. Rumors of worse. Then you know I like to welcome newcomers personally. Silas's eyes moved around the parlor, lingered on Clara, especially those staying with Mrs. Whitmore. I'm working off my debt, Caleb said carefully. Repairs around the house. So I've heard. Very industrious. Silas stepped closer. The thing is, Mr. Hartley, I've been courting Mrs. Whitmore for some time now, offering my protection, my resources. It would be unfortunate if she were distracted by other arrangements. The threat was clear. Caleb felt his muscles tense. I think Mrs. Whitmore can make her own decisions. Can she? Silas glanced at Clara. Tell me, Clara, Have you made a decision about my proposal? Clara's face was stone. I've told you before, Silas. I'm not interested. And yet you take in strangers, house them, feed them. Silas's voice hardened. A man might think you're looking for something he could provide. A man might think wrong. Careful. Silas moved toward her. Caleb stepped between them. Careful what you refuse, Clara. I've been patient, but my patience has limits. Is that a threat? It's a reality. Silas looked at Caleb. Ask around town, Mr. Hartley. Ask what happens to people who stand in my way. Then ask yourself if fixing shutters is worth what's coming. He turned and walked out. The front door slammed behind him. Silence. Clara stood frozen. Her hands were shaking. How long has he been doing this? Caleb asked quietly. Since James died. He offered to buy the boarding house. When I refused, he offered to marry me instead. Clara's laugh was bitter. Said he'd take care of me. What he meant was, he'd take everything. Why haven't you gone to the sheriff? Tom Dawson. Clara shook her head. He's a good man. But Silas owns half the town. The law looks the other way when Silas wants it to. Caleb thought about what Silas had said. Ask what happens to people who stand in my way. What does he want really? This building, this land. It's prime property in the center of town. James bought it cheap before Bitter Creek grew. Now it's worth 10 times what he paid. Clara sank into a chair. Silas has been buying up everything around it. I'm the last holdout. And if you married him, everything becomes his. The house, the land, me. Clara looked up at him. I'd rather burn it down myself. Caleb believed her. The fierce light in her eyes said she meant every word. I should leave, he said. The words tasted like poison. If I'm making things worse for you. No. Clara stood, grabbed his arm. Don't you dare. I didn't save your children just to let Silas Burke scare you off. He's dangerous. I know exactly how dangerous he is. Clara's grip tightened. But I will not be bullied. Not by him. Not by anyone. I've lost too much to lose myself now. Their eyes met. Held. Caleb felt something shift between them. Something dangerous and hopeful and terrifying. All right, he said. I'll stay. Good. Clara released his arm, stepped back, rebuilt the wall around herself. Now get back to work. That cabinet won't fix itself. She walked toward the kitchen, stopped in the doorway. Mr. Hartley? Yeah. Thank you for stepping in front of him. No one's done that before. She disappeared into the kitchen. Caleb stood in the empty parlor, heart pounding, wondering what he'd just gotten himself into. Evening came cold and dark. Caleb sat on the porch watching the street, waiting for Silas Burke to return with men and threats and whatever came next. The door opened behind him. Clara appeared with 2 cups of coffee. You'll freeze out here, she said. I'm watching. For Silas. Clara handed him a cup, sat down beside him. He won't come back tonight. He likes to let his threats sink in first. Gives people time to be afraid. Are you afraid? Clara was quiet for a moment. I was. After James and the boys died, I was afraid of everything. Afraid to leave the house, afraid to stay, afraid to live, and afraid to die. What changed? Nothing. I just got tired of being afraid. She sipped her coffee. Fear takes so much energy. At some point you run out. Caleb understood that. He'd been running on empty for 18 months. Your daughter doesn't trust me, Clara said. Josie doesn't trust anyone. She's smart. Survival instinct. Clara's voice was soft. She reminds me of Thomas. He was the same way. Watchful. Careful. Always calculating. How old was he when he... 7. Matthew was 5. Same ages as your older 2. Clara stared into her coffee. Sometimes I look at your children and I see ghosts. I'm sorry. If this is too hard, it's not. Clara cut him off. It's the opposite, actually. Having children in this house again, it hurts, but it's a good hurt. Like blood returning to a limb that's been asleep. She looked at him. Does that make sense? Yeah. Caleb thought about the first time Lily had laughed after Sarah died. How the sound had broken him and healed him at the same time. Yeah, it does. They sat in silence. The cold pressed in around them, but Caleb felt warm. That room, he said finally. The one with the wreath. Clara's body tensed. You don't have to talk about it, Caleb added quickly. I understand. I have things like that too. Things I can't let go of. Like what? Caleb reached into his pocket, pulled out Sarah's wedding ring, simple gold band worn thin from years of wear. She never took it off, not once in 9 years of marriage. After she died, I couldn't leave it with her, couldn't bury it, so I kept it. Clara reached out, touched the ring with one finger. James had a pocket watch, his father's. I grabbed it during the fire. Only thing I saved. She laughed bitterly. A watch, when I could have saved my sons, could have gone back for them. But I grabbed a watch instead. You couldn't have saved them. You don't know that. I know you wouldn't have left them if you had any choice. Caleb met her eyes. I know that because you wouldn't have left them for anything. Parents don't leave their children. Not when they can stay. Tears spilled down Clara's cheeks. She didn't wipe them away. I went back in, she whispered. 3 times. The smoke was so thick I couldn't see, couldn't breathe. The fire department pulled me out, held me down while my boys screamed. Clara. I still hear them, every night, every time I close my eyes. Her voice cracked. And that room, that's all I have left of them. Their beds, their toys, the last place they existed before everything burned. Caleb didn't think, just moved, pulled Clara into his arms and held her while she sobbed. She resisted at first, stiffened against him. Then something broke, and she collapsed against his chest, crying like she hadn't cried in years. Maybe she hadn't. Maybe she'd kept it all locked behind that closed door, preserved in grief, never letting it out. I'm sorry, she gasped. I never... Shh. Caleb held her tighter. It's okay. You're allowed to feel this. You're allowed to break. I can't. If I break, everything falls apart. The house, the business, everything I've built. It won't fall apart. You're stronger than you think. Clara pulled back. Her face was wet, eyes swollen. How do you know? Because you're still here. After everything. You're still standing. Still fighting. Caleb touched her cheek, wiped away a tear. That's not weakness, Clara. That's the strongest thing I've ever seen. She stared at him. Something shifted in her expression. Caleb. Papa. They sprang apart. Josie stood in the doorway, face unreadable. Tommy had a nightmare. He wants you. I'll be right there. Caleb stood, looked back at Clara. Are you okay? Clara wiped her face, straightened her spine, rebuilt her walls. I'm fine. Go see to your son. Caleb went inside. Josie lingered. She was crying, Josie said. I know. Because of us. Because of a lot of things, none of them your fault. Caleb put a hand on his daughter's shoulder. She's not the enemy, Josie. I know. Josie's voice was small. That's what scares me. She walked upstairs. Caleb watched her go, then looked back at Clara through the window. She sat alone on the porch, staring at nothing, coffee growing cold in her hands. 2 broken people, he thought. 1 house. Maybe Ezra was right. Maybe they could save each other. Or maybe they'd just break each other worse. Either way, Caleb was staying. He'd made that choice. Now he had to live with it. Tommy's nightmare had been about fire, about watching his family burn. He'd woken up screaming, sheets soaked with sweat, and it had taken Caleb an hour to calm him down. "Don't let me burn, Papa. Promise you won't let me burn." "I promise. Nothing's going to burn. I won't let anything hurt you." Now Tommy slept again, curled up against Caleb's side. Josie slept in the other bed, Lily tucked against her. The room was warm, safe, quiet, but Caleb couldn't sleep. He thought about Silas Burke, about threats and patience and what happens to people who stand in his way. He thought about Clara, about closed doors and iron roses and the weight of grief carried alone. He thought about his children, about promises made and broken and made again. Tomorrow would bring more work, more repairs, more time building something in a place that wasn't his. But for now, his children were warm. For now, Clara wasn't crying alone. For now, there was hope. Fragile, dangerous, but there. Caleb held his son and watched the darkness and waited for dawn. 3 days passed. Caleb worked from dawn until dark, crossing items off Clara's list one by one. The furnace took longest rusted parts, clogged vents, years of neglect. But he fixed it, and that night the upstairs rooms stayed warm for the first time in months. "You're good at this." Clara stood in the cellar doorway watching him clean his tools. "Better than good. I've had practice." Caleb wiped grease from his hands. "Fixing things is easier than fixing people." "Is that what you're trying to do, fix people?" "No, just trying not to break them worse." Clara was quiet for a moment. "The children are happy. Happier than when they arrived. They're warm, fed. That helps." "It's more than that." Clara stepped closer. Josie smiled at breakfast, actually smiled. Tommy hasn't had a nightmare in 2 nights. And Lily? What about Lily? She called me Mama yesterday. Caleb's heart stopped. She what? I was holding her. She looked up at me and said, Mama, clear as day. Clara's voice shook. I know she's too young to understand. I know she probably says it to anyone who holds her. But it meant something. It meant everything. Clara's eyes glistened. I haven't heard that word in 3 years. I thought I never would again. Caleb set down his tools. How did it feel? Like dying and being born at the same time. Clara laughed, wet, broken. That doesn't make sense. It makes perfect sense. They stood in the dim cellar close enough to touch. Caleb could smell lavender in Clara's hair. Could see the pulse beating in her throat. Caleb! The front door slammed upstairs. Heavy footsteps crossed the floor. Clara! A man's voice. Angry. Familiar. Clara's face went white. Silas! They moved together up the cellar stairs into the hallway. Silas Burke stood in the parlor, flanked by 2 men Caleb didn't recognize. Big men, hard-faced. There you are. Silas's smile was sharp. And Mr. Hartley, still here, I see. What do you want, Silas? Clara's voice was steady, but Caleb saw her hands shaking. I came to deliver a message. Silas pulled a paper from his coat. The bank is calling in your loan, effective immediately. Clara snatched the paper, read it. Her face drained of color. This is impossible. I've never missed a payment. Apparently there were some irregularities, paperwork errors. You know how these things happen. Silas's eyes glittered. The bank wants full repayment within 30 days, or they foreclose. You did this. Clara's voice rose. You bought someone at the bank. You manufactured this. Careful. Silas stepped closer. That sounds like an accusation, and accusations without proof can be dangerous. Caleb moved between them. Get out. Silas looked at him. Really looked. You're protecting her now. That's sweet. Noble even. But you should know I had a conversation with some people in Cheyenne. Interesting things they told me about Caleb Hartley. I don't care what they told you. You should, because I'm going to tell everyone in Bitter Creek. Silas leaned in. The drinking, the debts, the wife you couldn't save, the business you destroyed, the way you dragged your children through 3 territories begging for scraps. Each word landed like a blow. Caleb felt his hands curl into fists. The people in this town will know exactly what kind of man is living in Clara's boarding house, and they'll wonder. Silas glanced at Clara. They'll wonder what she had to offer to get you to stay. You son of a... Caleb swung. His fist connected with Silas's jaw. Silas staggered back. The 2 men surged forward, but Silas held up a hand. No. Silas touched his jaw. Blood smeared his lip. He was smiling. No, this is perfect. Assault. In front of witnesses. He looked at Caleb with something like triumph. Thank you, Mr. Hartley. You just made everything so much easier. He turned and walked out. His men followed. The door slammed. Silence. Clara stared at Caleb. What have you done? He wanted you to hit him, don't you see? Now he has grounds to press charges. Now everyone in town will say you're violent, dangerous. Clara's voice cracked. You played right into his hands. I wasn't going to let him talk about you like that. I don't need you to defend my honor. Clara's composure shattered. I need you to be smart. I need you to think before you act. Clara, get out. What? I need to think. I need to figure out how to fix this. Clara pointed to the door. Go, take a walk, check on your children. Just give me an hour. Caleb wanted to argue, wanted to stay, but the look in Clara's eyes stopped him. He grabbed his coat and left. The cold hit him like punishment. Caleb walked without direction, head down, shame burning in his chest. She was right. He'd been stupid. Silas had baited him, and he'd taken the bait like a fool. Now everything was worse. Mr. Hartley? Caleb looked up. An older man stood on the boardwalk, silver star pinned to his coat. Sheriff Tom Dawson. Sheriff? Heard there was some trouble at the boarding house. News travels fast. In a small town always. Dawson fell into step beside him. Silas Burke came to see me. Says you assaulted him. I hit him once. He deserved it. Maybe so. But deserving and legal aren't the same thing. Dawson studied him. You're the blacksmith from Cheyenne, the one who lost everything. That's me? I knew your father, Samuel Hartley. Good man. Better blacksmith. Caleb stopped walking. You knew my father. Bought my first horse from him. He threw in the shoes for free. Dawson's eyes were kind. He'd be disappointed to see you like this. Everyone keeps telling me that. Because it's true. Dawson put a hand on Caleb's shoulder. But disappointed isn't the same as done. Your father believed in second chances. Gave plenty of them himself. What are you saying? I'm saying Silas Burke isn't the law in this town. I am. And I'm not filing charges for one punch thrown in defense of a woman's honor. Dawson squeezed his shoulder. But you need to be careful. Silas doesn't lose. He just finds different ways to win. So what do I do? What your father would have done. Work hard, keep your head down, prove you're worth more than the rumors. Dawson started walking again. And maybe get Clara Whitmore to the church social on Saturday. Show the town you're not what Silas says you are. A church social? Whole town'll be there. Good chance to change some minds. Dawson tipped his hat. Think about it. He walked away. Caleb stood in the cold thinking. When he returned to the boarding house, Clara was sitting at the kitchen table. The bank letter lay in front of her. Her eyes were red. I'm sorry, Caleb said. You were right. I was stupid. Yes, you were. Clara didn't look up. But I shouldn't have yelled. You were trying to protect me. That's more than anyone else has done. Caleb sat across from her. What does the letter say? Really? I need to pay $2,000 in 30 days, or I lose everything. Do you have it? No, I have maybe 300 saved. The rest, Clara laughed bitterly. I'd have to sell the boarding house to pay for the boarding house. There has to be another way. There isn't. Silas made sure of that. Clara finally looked at him. He's been planning this for years, waiting for the right moment. And now he has it. Because of me. No, because of me. Clara stood paced to the window. I should have sold when James died. Should have taken the money and left. Started over somewhere else. Why didn't you? Because this was our home. James built it. The boys grew up here. Their memories are in these walls. Her voice dropped. I couldn't leave them. Caleb understood. The weight of memory, the anchor of grief. What if you didn't have to leave? Clara turned. What? What if we found another way, raise the money ourselves? How? $2,000 in 30 days. Caleb's mind raced. The forge. Your husband's forge. Where is it now? I sold it. To Silas. Clara's face darkened. He bought it for a quarter of what it was worth, said he was doing me a favor. Does he use it? No, it sat empty for 3 years. He only bought it so I couldn't sell it to anyone else. Caleb stood. What if I opened it again, started working? Silas would never allow it. Silas doesn't own me, and if the forge was your husband's, if you sold it under duress. I signed the papers. It's legal. Legal doesn't mean right. Caleb grabbed her hands. Clara, I'm a good blacksmith, one of the best. If I can find work, real work, I can help you raise that money. In 30 days. Maybe not all of it, but enough to show the bank you're trying, enough to buy more time. Clara stared at him. Why would you do this? You don't owe me anything. You saved my children. That's a debt I can never repay. Caleb squeezed her hands. But I can try. Let me try. Caleb, please. Clara's eyes filled with tears. She blinked them back. All right, she whispered. All right, try. The next morning, Caleb walked to the abandoned forge. It stood at the edge of town, weathered and neglected. He tried the door. Locked. Can I help you? Caleb turned. A young man stood behind him. Couldn't be more than 20. Nervous eyes shifting feet. I'm looking to use this forge. It belongs to Mr. Burke. I know. I want to rent it. The young man's eyes widened. Mr. Burke doesn't rent. He owns. Everything. Everything that matters. The young man glanced around, lowered his voice. You're the blacksmith staying with Mrs. Whitmore. People are talking. Let them talk. You don't understand. Mr. Burke, he ruins people. Anyone who crosses him. The young man backed away. You should leave town, before it's too late. He hurried off. Caleb watched him go. People are talking. The general store was his next stop. He needed supplies, nails, screws, small hardware he couldn't make himself. The bell chimed as he entered. The store went silent. 6 people, all staring at him. Caleb felt their eyes like physical weight. Mr. Hartley? The shopkeeper's voice was cold. Can I help you? I need supplies. Caleb handed over his list. Standard hardware. The shopkeeper looked at the list, looked at Caleb, looked at the other customers. I'm afraid we're out of stock. Out of stock on nails. That's right, maybe try the next town over. Caleb felt his jaw tighten. Is that so? That's so. The shopkeeper's eyes were flat. And Mr. Hartley, we're likely to be out of stock for a while. Might want to plan accordingly. Caleb left without another word. The pattern repeated. The hardware store, the feed shop. Even the general goods merchant who'd smiled at him 3 days ago. Door after door closed. Face after face turned away. Silas Burke had been busy. By afternoon, Caleb stood in the middle of Main Street out of options. The whole town had turned against him overnight. Whatever Silas had told them, whatever stories he'd spread, it had worked. Rough day. Caleb turned. Ezra Chen stood behind him, bundled against the cold. You could say that. I heard what happened. Word is you're a violent drunk who's taking advantage of poor Clara Whitmore. And what do you think? Ezra smiled. I think people believe what they want to believe, and Silas Burke is very good at telling them what that is. So what do I do? What you've been doing. Work. Provide. Show them who you really are. Ezra started walking. Caleb followed. There's a rancher 3 miles north. Name's Henderson. Good man. Honest. He needs a blacksmith to shoe his horses before winter sets in deep. How do you know? I know many things. Ezra's eyes twinkled. Henderson doesn't listen to town gossip. He judges men by their work. Go see him tomorrow. And if he turns me away, then you try someone else, and someone else after that. Eventually the truth shows through. Ezra stopped faced Caleb. You're not the only one Silas has tried to destroy. He came after me once, tried to run me out of town. What happened? I stayed, worked, kept my head down. Ezra shrugged. Eventually people saw the truth. Silas found someone else to torment. And you think that'll work for me? I think you have something I didn't have. Ezra's gaze drifted toward the boarding house. You have something worth fighting for, and that makes all the difference. He walked away. Caleb stood alone thinking about ranchers and horses and something worth fighting for. That night Clara came to find him on the porch. The children are asleep, she said. All 3 of them, in the same bed. Josie said they wanted to stay close. They're scared. Of what? Of losing this. Caleb gestured to the boarding house. Of losing you. Clara sat beside him. They barely know me. They know enough. They know you're safe. They know you care. He looked at her. Children sense these things, even when adults can't say them. Clara was quiet for a long moment. I went to the bank today, talked to Mr. Crawford. He's worked there for 20 years. What did he say? He said his hands are tied. The loan was sold to a new investor, someone who wants immediate repayment. Clara's voice was bitter. Guess who the new investor is? Silas. He bought my debt. He owns me now. Clara's composure cracked. I don't know how to fight this, Caleb. I've tried everything. Lawyers, banks, the sheriff. No one can help. I might have a lead. A rancher named Henderson. Ezra says he needs a blacksmith. Henderson. He's a good man. Fair. Will he hire me? If he needs the work done, he'll hire anyone who can do it. Clara touched his arm. But Caleb, it won't be enough. Even if you work every day until the deadline, you won't make $2,000. Maybe not, but I'll make something. And maybe that something will matter. Clara looked at him. Her eyes were soft in the darkness. Why are you doing this? I told you. You saved my children. There's more. Clara moved closer. Tell me the truth. Caleb's heart hammered. The truth. Could he say it? Could he admit what he'd been feeling? Because you matter, he said roughly. Because when I look at you, I don't see charity or obligation. I see someone strong and brave and beautiful. Someone who deserves better than what life gave her. Caleb. And maybe that's selfish. Maybe I'm trying to save you because I couldn't save Sarah. Couldn't save my business. Couldn't save anything that mattered. His voice cracked. But I can try to save this. I can try to save you. Clara's hand found his face. Her touch was cool, gentle. You don't have to save me, she whispered. You just have to stay. I'm not going anywhere. Promise me. Clara. Promise me. Her voice was fierce. Everyone leaves. Everyone gives up. Promise me you won't. Caleb covered her hand with his. I promise. She kissed him. It was sudden, soft, over almost before it began. But it changed everything. Clara pulled back. Her eyes were wide, scared. I shouldn't have. Don't. Caleb caught her hand before she could flee. Don't apologize. Don't pretend it didn't happen. It can't happen again. Not now. Not with everything. I know. He squeezed her hand. But when this is over, when we've beaten Silas, when you're free. When I'm free, Clara repeated softly. I'll be here, if you want me. Clara stood, let go of his hand, walked to the door. She stopped, didn't turn around. I want you, she said quietly. That's what scares me. She went inside. Caleb sat alone in the darkness, his lips still warm from her kiss, his heart full of something he'd thought he'd never feel again. Hope. Terrifying, dangerous hope. The door creaked behind him. Small footsteps. Papa? Josie appeared at his side. She was supposed to be sleeping. What are you doing up? I heard you and Mrs. Whitmore talking. Josie's voice was careful. I heard you make a promise. Caleb sighed. How much did you hear? Enough. Josie sat beside him. You kissed her. She kissed me. Same thing. Josie pulled her knees to her chest. Do you love her? I don't know. Maybe. It's complicated. Why? Because love is complicated. Because we've both lost people. Because there's a man trying to destroy her, and I'm not sure I can stop him. Josie was quiet for a long time. Mama would want you to be happy, she said finally. She told me once, before Lily was born. She said if anything happened to her, she wanted you to find someone who would take care of us. Caleb's throat tightened. She said that. She made me promise to remind you. Said you'd probably forget. Said you'd probably try to be sad forever because you were stubborn like that. Josie smiled. A real smile. She was right. Caleb pulled his daughter close. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You just never noticed because you were too busy being sad. He laughed. Couldn't help it. It felt strange in his chest. Foreign. Good. So, can we keep her? Josie asked. Mrs. Whitmore isn't a puppy. You know what I mean. Can she be our family? Caleb looked at the boarding house, at the warm light in the windows, at everything Clara had built and everything Silas was trying to destroy. If she'll have us, he said. Yes, she can be our family. Josie hugged him tight. Good. Because Tommy already calls her Mama when you're not listening. And Lily says it to everyone. And I... She buried her face in his coat. I don't want to lose anyone else. You won't. Caleb held her close. I promise. You won't lose anyone else. Tomorrow, he would go see Henderson. Tomorrow, he would start earning money. Tomorrow, he would begin the fight to save Clara's home. But tonight, he held his daughter and looked at the stars and let himself believe that maybe, just maybe, this story could have a happy ending. Inside the boarding house, a candle flickered in Clara's window. She was watching him too. Henderson hired him. Caleb stood in the rancher's barn, hands still warm from the forge, heart pounding with something he barely recognized. Hope. Real hope. 20 horses need shoes before the deep freeze hits, Henderson said. He was a big man, weathered and direct. Pays fair. $2 a horse. $40. Not enough. But a start. I'll take it. Henderson shook his hand. Heard what Silas Burke's been saying about you. Don't much care. I judge a man by his work, not by gossip. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me yet. Those horses are ornery. Earned your gratitude after you've shoed the last one. Henderson's eyes crinkled. Start tomorrow. Dawn. Caleb rode back to town as the sun set. 3 miles felt like nothing. The world felt possible again. Clara was waiting on the porch when he arrived. Well, $40, 20 horses. Clara's face lit up. Caleb, that's wonderful. It's not enough. It's a start. She grabbed his hands. It's proof that not everyone believes Silas. That's worth more than money. Caleb wanted to kiss her, wanted to pull her close and hold her and promise everything would be all right. But Josie was watching from the window. Tommy was pressed against the glass beside her. We should celebrate, Clara said. I'll make something special for dinner. You don't have to. I want to. Her eyes held his. Let me want to. Caleb nodded. Couldn't speak. Too much feeling in his chest. Dinner was venison stew. Clara had traded for the meat, refused to say what she'd given up. The children ate like they hadn't seen food in weeks, even though they'd had breakfast and lunch. This is the best thing I've ever tasted, Tommy announced. Even better than Mama's. Silence fell. Tommy's eyes went wide. He looked at Josie horrified. I didn't mean... It's okay. Clara's voice was soft. Your mama was a good cook. I'm sure she was. She made apple pie, Josie said quietly. Every Sunday. Papa would eat half of it before dinner. That's true. Caleb's throat was tight. She used to hide it from me. Never worked. What else did she make? Clara asked. The question opened something. Tommy started talking about Sarah's biscuits. Josie remembered her fried chicken. Even Lily babbled as if she had memories too. Caleb watched his children share their mother with Clara. Watched Clara listen, really listen, her eyes soft with understanding. This was what healing looked like. Not forgetting, not replacing, just making room for more. After dinner, Clara put the children to bed. Caleb waited in the parlor staring at the fire. They're asleep. Clara appeared in the doorway. All three. Tommy asked if you'd tell him a story about the horses tomorrow. I will. Clara sat beside him, close. Her shoulder touched his. Thank you, she said. For what? For talking about her. Sarah. Most men wouldn't. She was their mother. They need to remember her. And you. Do you need to remember her? Caleb was quiet for a long moment. I used to think remembering was all I had. That if I stopped, she'd really be gone. He looked at Clara. But lately I think she'd want me to do more than remember. What would she want? To live. To let the children live. To find happiness again. Caleb's voice dropped. To find you. Clara's breath caught. Caleb, I know the timing's wrong. I know Silas is still out there. I know we might lose everything. He took her hand. But I need you to know. What I feel for you. It's real. It's not gratitude or desperation. It's you. Clara's eyes glistened. I'm scared. So am I. What if it falls apart? What if... Then we fall apart together. Caleb squeezed her hand. But at least we'll have tried. At least we'll have had this. Clara leaned into him. Her head rested on his shoulder. They sat like that, watching the fire, not speaking. Some moments didn't need words. The next 2 weeks blurred together. Caleb worked Henderson's horses from dawn to dusk. His hands blistered, cracked, healed, hardened. 20 horses became 25 when Henderson's neighbor heard about the new blacksmith. Word spread. Not Silas's poisoned words, but different ones. The blacksmith at Clara Whitmore's place does good work. Fair prices. Honest man. $50 became $70, then $100. It's not enough, Caleb said one night. They had 15 days left. We're still short by more than half. Maybe we could... A knock at the door cut Clara off, loud, insistent. Caleb rose, opened the door. Sheriff Tom Dawson stood on the porch. His face was grave. Mr. Hartley, Mrs. Whitmore, I need you to come with me." "What's wrong?" Clara appeared at Caleb's shoulder. "There's been a fire, the Henderson Ranch." Dawson's jaw tightened. "Barn's gone. Horses, too. Henderson's saying someone said it deliberate." Caleb's blood went cold. "Is he all right?" "Burns on his hands. Nothing serious. But he's lost everything. 30 years of breeding stock. Gone." Clara gripped Caleb's arm. "Silas." "Can't prove that." Dawson looked uncomfortable. "But there's more. Henderson's saying—" "He's saying you were the last one at the barn, Mr. Hartley." "That's insane. I left at sunset. The barn was fine." "I believe you. But Silas has witnesses. Says they saw you riding back toward the ranch after dark." "That's a lie." "Maybe so. But I need you to come answer some questions. Official-like." Dawson's eyes were apologetic. "I'm sorry. I don't have a choice." Caleb turned to Clara. Her face was white. "Go," she said. "Answer his questions. Tell the truth. I'll stay with the children." "Clara." "Go." She squeezed his hand. "We'll figure this out." Caleb followed Dawson into the night. The walk to the sheriff's office felt like a funeral march. The questions lasted 3 hours. "Where were you? What time did you leave? Did anyone see you on the road home?" Caleb answered everything, told the truth, but he could see the doubt growing in Dawson's eyes. "The thing is," Dawson said finally, "Silas has 3 men saying they saw you. 3 men with no reason to lie. They're lying because Silas told them to." "Maybe. Probably. But I can't prove that." Dawson rubbed his face. "I'm not arresting you. Not yet. But you need to understand, if Henderson presses charges, if he believes Silas's story, I won't have a choice. Henderson knows me. He knows I wouldn't—" "Henderson lost 30 years of work tonight. He's not thinking straight." Dawson stood. "Go home. Stay there. Don't give anyone reason to make this worse." Caleb walked back to the boarding house in a daze. The world had tilted again. Just when things were getting better, Silas had found another way to destroy them. Clara was waiting in the parlor. "Well, they think I did it. Silas has witnesses." "That's impossible." "I know." Caleb sank into a chair. "But it doesn't matter what's true. It matters what people believe." Clara knelt in front of him, took his hands. "We'll fight this. We'll find a way." "How?" "The money I earned is gone. Henderson can't pay me now, and even if he could, no one else will hire me after this." "Then we'll find another way." "There is no other way." Caleb's voice cracked. "Don't you see Silas wins? He always wins. He burned down a man's barn just to destroy me. What's he going to do next? Burn down this house, hurt the children." "Stop. I can't protect you. I can't protect anyone." Caleb pulled his hands away. "I should leave, take the children and go, before I make things worse." "No. Clara, no." Her voice was steel. "You promised me. You promised you wouldn't leave. That was before what? Before things got hard." Clara grabbed his face, forced him to look at her. "I didn't save your children so you could give up. I didn't open my door so you could run away. I'm not running away. I'm protecting you. I don't need your protection. I need your presence." Tears streamed down her face. "I've lost everyone I've ever loved. My husband, my sons, everyone. And then you came. You and your children. And for the first time in 3 years I felt alive again. Clara, don't you dare leave me now. Don't you dare prove everyone right about you." The words hit like a slap. Caleb stared at her. "Is that what you think? That I'm proving them right? I think you're scared. I think Silas found exactly the right button to push." Clara's grip on his face softened. "But being scared doesn't mean you get to quit. It means you get to choose. Fight or flight." "Caleb, which one are you?" The choice hung between them. Caleb thought about his father, about Sarah, about all the people he'd let down, about the children sleeping upstairs, about the woman kneeling in front of him with tears on her face and fire in her eyes. "Fight," he said roughly. "I choose fight." Clara kissed him, hard, desperate, full of fear and hope and something fiercer than both. When she pulled back, her eyes were burning. "Good, because we have 14 days to save this house, and I am not losing anything else." Morning came harsh and cold. Caleb hadn't slept. Clara hadn't either. They sat in the kitchen drinking coffee, waiting for the children to wake up. "I need to talk to Henderson," Caleb said. "Make him understand. And if he doesn't, then I'll find another way. But I have to try." The ride to Henderson's ranch took forever. What had been 3 miles felt like 30. Every hoofbeat echoed with dread. The barn was gone, just blackened timbers and ash. Henderson stood in front of it, staring at nothing. "Mr. Henderson?" The rancher turned. His face was hollow, old in a way it hadn't been 2 days ago. "Hartley, I didn't do this. I need you to know that. Silas Burke says different. Silas Burke is a liar." Henderson studied him. Long moment. Silent. "I know," he said finally. Caleb's heart lurched. "You know. I've known Silas Burke for 20 years. I know what he is." Henderson turned back to the ruins. "But my horses are still dead. My barn is still gone. And I don't have proof of anything, except 3 men saying they saw you. So what happens now? Now I rebuild, or I sell, or I walk away." Henderson's voice was flat, defeated. "I'm 63 years old, Hartley. I don't have another 30 years in me. I'm sorry." "Ain't your fault." Henderson looked at him. "Go home. Take care of that woman and those children. Don't let Silas win. What about you?" "I'll figure something out. I always do." Henderson extended his hand. "You're a good blacksmith, one of the best I've seen. Don't let them take that from you." Caleb shook his hand, felt the calluses, the strength, the grief. "Thank you," he said, "for believing me. I judge men by their work." Henderson almost smiled. "Your work was good." Caleb rode home with a heart full of sorrow and rage. Henderson hadn't deserved this. None of them had. But Silas didn't care about deserving. Silas only cared about winning. The boarding house was chaos when he returned. Clara stood on the porch, face pale. The children huddled behind her. "What happened?" "He came." Clara's voice shook. "While you were gone, Silas came." Caleb's blood turned to ice. "Did he hurt you? Did he touch the children?" "No, he just talked." Clara wrapped her arms around herself. "He said we have 12 days. He said if I don't sign over the boarding house by then, he'll make sure you hang for arson." "That's not going to happen." "He has witnesses, Caleb. He has the sheriff's ear. He has everything." "He doesn't have us." Caleb pulled her close. "He doesn't have our will to fight." "Fighting isn't enough." Clara's voice broke. "I don't know what to do anymore. I've tried everything. Every legal option. Every appeal. Nothing works against him. Then we go outside the law." Clara pulled back. "What? If the law won't help us, we help ourselves." Caleb's jaw tightened. "I'm going to confront him. Tonight. Make him understand this ends now." "That's suicide." "Maybe, but I'm done being his victim." Caleb looked at his children, at their frightened faces, at everything he was trying to protect. "Silas Burke thinks he can take whatever he wants. He's wrong. Caleb, please. Stay here. Lock the doors. Don't let anyone in until I get back." He started walking. Clara grabbed his arm. "If you do this, you might not come back." "I know. The children need you." "The children need a father who fights for them, not one who hides." Caleb touched her face. If I don't come back, take care of them. Please. Don't do this. I have to. He kissed her forehead. I love you, Clara. I should have said it sooner. Say it when you come back. I plan to. He walked into the gathering dark. Behind him, Clara watched until he disappeared. The saloon was full when Caleb arrived. Loud voices, clinking glasses, the smell of whiskey and smoke. He pushed through the doors, and every head turned. Silas Burke sat at the back table. Two men flanked him. The same men who'd been at the boarding house. The same men who'd lied to the sheriff. Caleb walked straight toward him. Hartley. Silas's smile was lazy, confident. I was wondering when you'd show up. This ends tonight. Does it? Silas gestured to a chair. Sit, have a drink. Let's discuss terms. I don't want to discuss terms. I want you to leave Clara alone. And why would I do that? Silas leaned forward. I've worked 3 years to get that property. 3 years of patience, of planning, of waiting for the right moment. His eyes glittered. You think I'm going to give that up because some drunk blacksmith asks nicely? I'm not asking. Silas laughed. The men beside him laughed too. You're threatening me, in my own establishment with my own men watching. Silas shook his head. You're dumber than I thought. Maybe, but I'm also the only thing standing between you and what you want. You think so? Silas stood, slowly. Let me tell you what's going to happen, Mr. Hartley. In 12 days, Clara Whitmore is going to sign over her boarding house. She's going to do it because the alternative is watching you hang for a crime you didn't commit. The sheriff knows I didn't do it. The sheriff knows what I tell him to know. Silas stepped closer. Tom Dawson is a good man, an honest man. But honest men have weaknesses, families, friends, things they care about. His voice dropped. Things that can burn. Caleb felt cold spread through his chest. You'd threaten the sheriff. I'd do whatever it takes. Silas's face was inches from his. You still don't understand, do you? This isn't about the boarding house. This isn't about Clara. This is about power. About proving that no one in this town can stand against me. Someone has to. And you think that's you? Silas laughed again. You're broken, Hartley. A failure. A drunk who couldn't save his own wife. What makes you think you can save anyone else? The words cut deep. But something else rose up in Caleb. Something stronger than shame. Because broken men have nothing left to lose. Caleb met his eyes. You've taken everything from me. My reputation, my livelihood, my hope. But you haven't taken my will. And you won't. For a moment something flickered in Silas's eyes. Doubt, fear. Then it was gone. We'll see. Silas turned back to his table. 12 days, Hartley. Then we finish this. Caleb walked out of the saloon. His legs were shaking. His heart was pounding. But he was alive. And he had 12 days. He walked back to the boarding house in the dark. The cold bit through his coat. The wind howled around him. Clara was waiting on the porch. She ran to him when she saw him coming. You're alive. Thank God you're alive. I'm alive. Caleb held her tight. He's not going to stop. But neither am I. What do? We fight. Together. Every day for 12 more days. Caleb pulled back. Looked at her face in the moonlight. I told him broken men have nothing to lose. But I was wrong. Wrong how? I have everything to lose. You, the children, this house. Caleb's voice roughened. But that doesn't make me weaker. It makes me stronger, because I'll do anything to protect what I love. Clara's eyes filled with tears. Do you love me? More than I thought I could love anyone again. She kissed him, deep and long and full of promise. When they finally broke apart, both of them were crying. 12 days, Clara whispered. 12 days. Caleb agreed. They walked inside together. Somewhere upstairs, a child called out in sleep. Somewhere in the darkness, Silas Burke was planning his next move. But tonight, for one moment, there was only this. Two people, one promise, and the stubborn, reckless hope that love might be enough. 11 days passed like water through fingers. Caleb worked every job he could find, mended fences for farmers too poor to pay cash, took eggs and flour instead, fixed wagon wheels, repaired tools, anything to add to the fund. Clara sold her mother's silver. Caleb found out when Josie told him. "She cried when she wrapped it up," Josie said. "But she told me not to tell you." Caleb found Clara in the kitchen that night. "Why didn't you tell me?" Clara's hands stilled on the bread dough. "Because you would have stopped me. That silver was your mother's. And this house is my children's legacy, all 4 of them." She looked at him. "Your children are mine now, Caleb, whether we make it official or not." "Clara, I would sell everything I own to keep them safe, to keep you safe." She went back to kneading. The silver was just metal. This family is everything. Caleb crossed the kitchen, took her flour-covered hands in his. "How much do we have now?" $1,200, maybe a bit more. Clara's voice was tired. "Still short. We'll find the rest. In one day. We'll find it." Caleb kissed her forehead. "Or we won't. Either way, we face it together." The next morning brought unexpected visitors. Caleb answered the door to find Henderson standing on the porch. Behind him stood 3 other men. Ranchers. Farmers. Men Caleb recognized from town. "Mr. Henderson." "Hartley." Henderson removed his hat. "Can we come in?" Clara appeared behind Caleb. "Of course. Please." The men filed into the parlor. They stood awkward and uncertain, hats in hands. "We heard about your situation," Henderson said. "About what Silas is doing." "Whole town's heard," another man added. Old, gray-bearded. "Most are too scared to do anything about it. But not us." Henderson reached into his coat, pulled out an envelope. "This is from me, $50, all I could spare after the fire." Caleb's throat closed. "Mr. Henderson, I can't." "You can, and you will." Henderson pressed the envelope into his hands. "You did good work for me. This is what's owed." The gray-bearded man stepped forward. "I'm Emmett Walsh. You fixed my plow last week. Wouldn't take payment." He held out another envelope. $20. One by one, the men came forward, each with an envelope, each with a story. "You fixed my daughter's stove. My wife was going to freeze. You shoed my horse when no one else would touch him. Saved my livelihood. You're a good man, Hartley. Good men are rare." When the last envelope was placed in Caleb's hands, he couldn't speak, couldn't move, just stood there surrounded by the kindness of strangers. "How much?" Clara's voice was trembling. Caleb counted. His hands shook. $640. Clara gasped. That's almost... Almost enough. Henderson's face was grim. "It ain't everything. But maybe it shows the bank you've got community support. Maybe it buys you time." "Why?" Caleb finally found his voice. "Why would you all do this?" "Because Silas Burke has run this town long enough." Henderson's jaw tightened. "Because good people shouldn't lose their homes to bad men. Because your father would have done the same for any of us." "You knew my father." "Samuel Hartley shoed my first horse for free when I couldn't afford to pay. Said I could settle up when I made something of myself." Henderson almost smiled. "I never forgot. This is me settling up." Clara was crying, silent tears streaming down her face. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you all." "Don't thank us yet." Emmett Walsh looked toward the door. "Silas won't take this lying down. You've got the money now, but getting it to the bank, that's another matter. What do you mean? I mean Silas has men watching this house, watching the roads. He knows something's happening. Walsh's eyes were hard. He'll try to stop you. Caleb's blood chilled. How? However he has to. Henderson put his hat back on. Get to the bank first thing tomorrow. Don't stop for anyone. Don't trust anyone you don't know. The men filed out. At the door, Henderson turned back. Your father was a good man, Caleb. You're better. He tipped his hat to Clara. Ma'am, good luck. They were gone. Caleb stood in the parlor, envelopes clutched in his hands, heart pounding. We have enough, Clara breathed. We actually have enough. If we can get it to the bank, we will. Clara's eyes were fierce. We have to. That night, Caleb couldn't sleep. He sat by the window watching the street. Shadows moved between buildings. Men who shouldn't be there, watching, waiting. Clara found him at midnight. Come to bed. I can't. If they come tonight? If they come tonight, you need to be rested enough to fight. Clara took his hand. Please, Caleb, just a few hours. He let her lead him to bed, but he didn't sleep. Just lay in the darkness listening to her breathe, counting the hours until dawn. Morning came gray and cold. Christmas Day. Caleb had forgotten. Lost track of time in the chaos. But the children hadn't. Papa! Tommy burst into the bedroom. Papa! It's Christmas! Did St. Nicholas come? Caleb's heart clenched. They had nothing. No presents, no tree. Just survival. But Clara was already up, already moving. Come downstairs, she said to Tommy. I think St. Nicholas might have left something in the kitchen. Caleb followed them down. The kitchen table was covered with small packages, wrapped in brown paper tied with string. Where did these come from? Mr. Chen, Mrs. Davidson, the farmers who came yesterday. Clara's eyes glistened. While you were talking in the parlor, they left these for the children. Tommy tore into the first package. A carved wooden horse. His gasp of joy echoed through the house. Josie opened hers slowly, carefully. A ribbon for her hair, blue like her mother's eyes. She pressed it to her chest and cried. Even Lily got a package. A rag doll, hand-sewn and soft. Caleb watched his children discover kindness. Watched them learn that the world wasn't all closed doors and cold shoulders. Some people cared. Some people helped. There's one more. Clara pressed a small package into his hands. What's this? Open it. Caleb unwrapped the paper. Inside lay a photograph, old, faded, a young woman holding two small boys. It's my family, Clara said softly. James took it the year before they died. I want you to have it. Clara, I can't. You're part of this family now. You should know who came before. Clara touched the photograph. They would have loved your children. They would have loved you. Caleb pulled her close, held her while she cried. Merry Christmas, he whispered. Merry Christmas. An hour later, they prepared to leave for the bank. Clara dressed in her best clothes. Caleb wore the suit Henderson had lent him. The money was hidden in Clara's handbag, pressed flat against the lining. The children stay here, Caleb said, with Mr. Chen. I want to come. Josie's face was stubborn. I want to help. You can help by keeping your brother and sister safe. Caleb knelt in front of her. Can you do that for me? Josie's jaw tightened. She nodded. If anything happens, Clara started. Nothing will happen. Caleb took her hand. We're going to walk into that bank, pay off the loan, and walk out free. That's all. You make it sound simple. It is simple. We have the money. We have the law. Silas can't stop us. But even as he said it, Caleb knew it wasn't true. Silas could stop them. Would try to stop them. The only question was how. They stepped outside into the cold morning air. The street was empty. Too empty. Christmas morning should have brought some activity, churchgoers, families visiting. But Bitter Creek was silent. "Something's wrong," Clara whispered. "Keep walking." They made it halfway to the bank before the men appeared. 6 of them. Stepping out of alleys blocking the street, Silas Burke at their center. "Well," Silas smiled. "Going somewhere." Caleb pushed Clara behind him. "Get out of our way." "I don't think so." Silas walked closer. "I hear you've been collecting donations. Very touching. But I'm afraid I can't let you reach the bank." "You can't stop us." "Can't I?" Silas gestured to his men. 6 against 1. Those are poor odds, Hartley. "Actually." A voice from behind them. "I count 7 against 7. Caleb turned. Henderson stood there. Walsh beside him. 4 other men. The farmers who'd brought money yesterday. "Gentlemen." Henderson tipped his hat. "Morning, Silas." Silas's face darkened. "This doesn't concern you." "The hell it doesn't." Henderson stepped forward. "These are our neighbors, our friends. You think we're going to stand by while you rob them? I'm not robbing anyone. I'm collecting what's owed." "You're a liar and a cheat." Henderson's voice rang out. "We all know what you did. Burning my barn, buying Clara's debt, spreading lies about Hartley." He looked at the other men. "We've let you run this town long enough. That ends today." Silas's eyes narrowed. "You're making a mistake." "Only mistake I made was staying quiet this long." For a long moment, no one moved. The 2 groups faced each other in the frozen street. Christmas Day in Bitter Creek, and it had come down to this. Then Silas laughed. "Fine, you win today." He stepped aside, clearing the path to the bank. "But this isn't over, Hartley. Not by a long shot." Caleb grabbed Clara's hand. "Let's go." They walked toward the bank. Every step felt like a mile. Every heartbeat like thunder. The bank door opened. Warmth rushed out. Safety. "Mr. Hartley, Mrs. Whitmore." The bank manager looked nervous. "I wasn't expecting you today." "We're here to pay off the loan." Clara set her handbag on the counter. "In full." The manager's eyes widened. "The full amount, but that's $1,847. We have it." Clara began pulling out bills, stacking them on the counter. "Count it." The manager counted. His hands trembled. Behind them, Caleb watched the door, waiting for Silas to change his mind, waiting for everything to fall apart. "It's all here." The manager looked up. "This satisfies the loan in full." Clara sagged against the counter. "We're free." "You're free. The property is yours clear and clear." Caleb caught Clara as her knees buckled, held her while she sobbed with relief. "We did it," she gasped. "We actually did it." "You did it." Caleb kissed her hair. "You never gave up. Neither did you." They walked out of the bank into bright morning sunlight. Henderson and the other men waited outside. "Well, it's done." Caleb's voice was hoarse. "The house is ours." A cheer went up. Men clapped Caleb on the back. Clara was passed from embrace to embrace. But Caleb's eyes found Silas, still standing across the street, still watching. Their eyes met. Silas's face was stone. Then he turned and walked away. "Is it really over?" Clara asked. "For now." Caleb watched Silas disappear. But men like him don't give up. They just wait. "Then we'll be ready." Clara took his hand. Together. They walked home surrounded by friends. The children rushed out when they saw them coming. "Mama, Papa," Tommy crashed into them. "What happened? Did we win?" "We won." Caleb lifted him up. The house is ours. Forever. Josie stood back watching. Her eyes were wet. Does that mean we're staying? She asked. For real this time. Caleb set Tommy down, knelt in front of his daughter. We're staying. This is our home now, our family. He looked at Clara. All of us. Together. Josie threw her arms around his neck, held on like she'd never let go. I love you, Papa. I love you too. So much. Clara joined them, Lily in her arms, Tommy pressing against her side. The four of them tangled together in the cold Christmas morning. Family. Real and chosen and unbreakable. That night, after the children were asleep, Caleb took Clara to the closed door. The one with the wreath. Are you ready? Clara's hand trembled in his. I don't know. You don't have to do this today. Yes, I do. She took a breath. It's time to let them go. She opened the door. The room was just as it had always been. 2 small beds, toys on shelves, school slates on a desk. But something was different now. The weight had lifted. The shrine had become a memory. Hello, boys, Clara whispered. I brought someone to meet you. She led Caleb inside, showed him Thomas's books, Matthew's rock collection, the drawings they'd made, the lives they'd lived. They were beautiful, Caleb said. You can see it in everything they touched. They were my whole world, Clara's voice cracked. And then they were gone. They're not gone. Caleb touched her heart. They're right here. Always. Clara nodded, tears streaming down her face. I need to do something, she said. Will you help me? Together they moved the toys to a shelf in the parlor, created a place of honor, a memorial, not a tomb. The room remained, but now it could breathe, could become a guest room, a playroom, a place for living, not just remembering. Thank you, Clara whispered. For what? For giving me back my life. She touched his face. For showing me that love doesn't have to end when people do. Caleb kissed her, slow and deep and full of promise. Marry me, he said. Clara's breath caught. What? Marry me. Make this official. Let me spend the rest of my life proving I deserve you. Caleb, we barely... I know what I feel. I've known since the night you opened your door. He took her hands. I'm not a perfect man. I'm broken and scarred, and I've made more mistakes than I can count. But I love you. I love your strength and your courage and the way you see good in everyone. I love how you are with my children. I love who I am when I'm with you. Clara was crying now, laughing too. Is that a proposal? It's a promise, to stand beside you, to fight for you, to build something beautiful from everything we've lost. Yes, the word came out fierce. Yes, I'll marry you. Caleb swept her into his arms, held her tight, let himself believe finally that happiness was possible. New Year's Day they married. The whole town came, Henderson and Walsh, and all the farmers who'd saved them. Even Sheriff Dawson, who shook Caleb's hand and said his father would be proud. Josie stood beside Clara holding Lily. Tommy stood beside Caleb, solemn and proud. I now pronounce you man and wife. Caleb kissed Clara, while their children cheered, while the town applauded, while the future stretched out before them bright and uncertain and full of hope. That night after the celebration, Caleb stood on the porch with Clara. Mrs. Hartley. Clara smiled. Mr. Hartley? Has a nice ring to it. It does. She leaned against him. What happens now? Now we live, we raise our children, we build something worth leaving behind. And Silas. Silas will try again. Men like him always do. Caleb looked out at the town, at the life they'd fought for. But we'll be ready. We're not alone anymore. Clara took his hand. No, we're not. Somewhere inside, a child laughed. Another child responded. The sound of siblings, the sound of family. Caleb thought about the night he'd knelt in the snow with his dying daughter, the night every door had closed, the night he'd given up hope. And then Clara had opened her door. One act of kindness, one moment of courage, one woman who refused to look away. She offered her home, Caleb murmured. Clara looked at him. What? That night, Christmas Eve. You offered us your home. And you offered me your heart. Clara touched his chest. Fair trade. Best trade I ever made. They stood together in the winter darkness. Two people who'd lost everything. Two people who'd found each other. The boarding house rose behind them warm and solid. Inside, 4 children slept in rooms that rang with laughter. Outside, a town that had once turned its back now stood beside them. Home wasn't a place. It was this moment, these people, this love, hard-won, carefully tended, forged in the coldest night and tempered by fire. Caleb Hartley had come to Bitter Creek with nothing but his children and his grief. He left that Christmas as a husband, a father, a member of a community that had chosen to stand up instead of look away. Clara Whitmore had locked herself behind closed doors for 3 years, preserving death instead of living life. She emerged that Christmas as a mother again, a wife, a woman who'd learned that opening your heart was the bravest thing anyone could do. And somewhere in the spaces between, Sarah watched over them. James and Thomas and Matthew watched too. The loved and lost, not forgotten, but transformed. Woven into the fabric of a new family built on the foundations of the old. This is how families are made. Not by blood alone, but by choice. By sacrifice. By the stubborn refusal to give up on each other. This is how love survives. Not by avoiding pain, but by walking through it. By reaching out when it would be easier to pull back. By saying yes when every voice screams no. This is how homes are forged. In fire and cold. In loss and recovery. In the space between one door closing and another opening. Caleb pulled Clara closer. The stars wheeled overhead. Their children dreamed, safe and warm. And in Bitter Creek, Wyoming, on the first day of a new year, 2 broken people stood whole at last, proving that the strongest homes are built, not from timber and nails, but from courage, from kindness, and from love that refuses to die.